Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. All right, folks, let's get into this video. What I want to talk about is one of the worst things that I see as an African-American criminal defense and civil rights lawyer. And that is when I see systemic racism destroy innocent African-American people's lives. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. As you see, I'm going to talk about how the system intentionally destroys blacks quite often with false gun charges, despite the Second Amendment. Now, we have the same right as everyone else to own firearms if we otherwise can own firearms. If we can legally own firearms, that is, we're not a convicted felon, we don't have other things on our record, and we can legally own firearms, possess firearms, then we should be able to own and possess those firearms just like everyone else. But quite often, that's not the case. And I'm going to share with you two people from the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, who got jammed up because of systemic racism despite the Second Amendment. I'm going to bring you their story. And this makes my blood boil because I have seen this so many times. People's lives literally being destroyed, black people especially, because of the system. Not anything they did wrong, but the system. So let's get into this. I want to show you these couple of wonderful people and what happened to them and what you can do if this ever happens to you. All right, so a little housekeeping before we get into the video. First, let me read this disclaimer. This video is for informational purposes only. Nothing stated here is legal advice. For legal advice, consult a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. This presentation provides legal analysis only. No evidence has been reviewed or received. All statements are speculative. No attorney-client relationship will develop from watching or hearing this video. All right, now let's start with a definition of systemic racism. I got this definition from the website of, I think, probably the wealthiest black man in the country. His name is Robert Smith. All right, so you can go read this on his website. His URL for this definition is at the bottom of this definition. All right, so it says systemic racism is a form of discrimination stemming from institutional and societal structures. It's not based on individuals. All right, it's not based on individuals. It is the institution or the structure or the system that is bringing about the racism and the destruction of people's lives. Goes on to say it is the result of laws, policies, and cultural practices, you see, that create and maintain racial hierarchies in society. Institutional and societal structures support racial discrimination and inequity, creating a cycle. I love this definition. This form of racism can be traced back to deliberate acts of discrimination against Black, Indigenous, and other communities of color. It has socioeconomic and health consequences that create more racial inequity in society. So the thing to remember here is it is not based on individual racism. It is based on structural, institutional, and systemic racism, and it happens because of customs, policies, regulations that are endemic in that structure or in that institution or in that system. In this case, it happens to be the Chicago Police Department. All right. You could say the Chicago city government. All right. So I'm not singling out any person. It is the system. The system. In fact, the city of Chicago has a black mayor, Brandon Johnson, and it has a black chief. They call him superintendent of police. And then his top assistant is an African-American woman. So these three people sit at the top of both the local police department for the city of Chicago, and a black man, Brandon, sits over the entire city government of one of the largest cities in the world, certainly in America. And yet, two African-American people, and there are probably more, suffered absolute systemic racism. And oh, by the way, don't blame Mayor Brandon Johnson or those police officers, the chief, the superintendent, the assistant superintendent. Don't blame those three black people for the system. This system has been in place for centuries. The system was in place before Brandon became mayor and before those two folks became the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. All right? So don't blame them. Don't be like, well, yeah, that's, he ain't doing nothing for the people and Brandon ain't doing, this and that. Dude, ma'am, Brandon's been mayor for a short period of time. The system has been in place for hundreds of years. The system was created and maintained by white people. He's coming into the job. And I believe he's doing a good job trying to change the system, but changing the system is very, very, very hard. And that's part of the reason why he's being targeted, right, by the Trump administration. When he started trying to hire more African-American people and putting them in key positions, they started going after him because they don't want the system changed. That's why they fought Obama so hard, and you all give him such a hard time. It's been in place for centuries, and they're going to fight anyone trying to change it. All right, so I wanted you to remember that as well. All right, let's look at those two people. Here they are. Now, again, this is just the two we know about. I assure you, as an attorney who's been practicing law for decades, there are more. And they're not just in Chicago. They're all over the country. So when MAGA and Trump and others, Tim Scott and anyone who says there is no systemic racism in America, here it is. These people's lives, these two people, their lives were destroyed, and they're trying to get them back together now. Not because they did anything wrong, not because they're career criminals. No, they did none of that. No, sir, they did everything the right way, and yet they got jammed up. All right, charged with false, bogus gun charges, despite the Second Amendment. Despite the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, these people got jammed up. I've seen it so many times. I've represented so many of these people, and I had to bring the story to you. All right, now we're going to go and watch a news report so that you can see exactly what happened to these folks. This was very unfortunate and very sad. Now, the report is about 9 minutes long. I've divided it into two parts. I'm going to talk in between those two parts. But the first part, I want you to hear it as it's happening. Let's go.
Ease your constitutional right to carry a gun in the state of Illinois if you have the proper licenses. But some black gun owners say their rights are being violated. CBS News Chicago investigator Dorothy Tucker uncovered several cases where they were stopped by police and charged with felonies, despite having everything in order, leaving them to pick up the pieces of their lives.
We did something that's never been done before, watermelon cheesecake.
A cheesecake tasting in the south suburbs. Louis McWilliams' dream is to grow his business.
It's going to blow you away.
I like it.
All was good.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I told you.
This is like a Jolly Ranch.
Until this.
Why are you being detained right now, Mr. McWilliams?
I'm an entrepreneur. I have a company, a cheesecake company called Ann's Flavored Cheesecakes.
At the time of this interview, Lewis faced a felony charge.
This has been very traumatic for me. I feel like my rights was violated.
His Second Amendment rights. Lewis is an avid gun owner.
Just got me the AR up top, one in the middle.
In April, Lewis was pulled over on the south side, West 79th Street. He had a missing front plate.
Yes, sir. How you doing, boss? Good.
The first thing he did, tell the officers he had a gun.
Okay, where's your firearm? On my side. Okay, you got your concealed carry license?
According to state law, in order to carry a legal gun in your car, you need a firearms license, better known as a FOID card, and a concealed and carry license, commonly called a CCL. This is Lewis's card, and it's valid. That's what he handed the officers.
He looks at him. He said, okay, cool, this is perfect.
Only it wasn't.
Concealed carry, it didn't pop up. Oh.
It didn't pop up on LEADS, the database operated by the Illinois State Police.
I need you to step out.
Police recommended Lewis be charged with 2 felonies.
Why are you being detained right now, Mr. McWilliams? Because you can't verify your concealed carry, okay?
And look here. Prosecutors approved the charges.
He never should have been charged.
Irv Miller is a former prosecutor, once in charge of reviewing police cases.
He showed them a valid CCL card. Not only did they see it, they actually took possession of it and inventoried it.
I haven't got to
It's right there in CPD's inventory sheet. So why was Lewis arrested? That's a question we wanted to ask Superintendent Larry Snelling, but he declined an interview. So we reached out to state police because anytime an officer pulls over a driver who has a gun, the first thing they do is check the state's database to see if that driver has a valid FOID and CCL.
Oh, okay.
So here's the question we asked the state. If a driver like Lewis actually hands the police a valid CCL, but the officers don't see the information in the state's database, what should they do? The state replied, the officers should not take any law enforcement action as it relates to a potential FOID CCL violation. That's what Lewis expected, and what he was told later as he stood in a jail cell.
This comes back clean.
Yeah, then they just let you go, apologize, and let you go about your day.
That's not what happened. Lewis spent 24 traumatic hours behind bars.
It was just deplorable. There were roaches falling from the ceiling. All of this because of illegal everything.
Yeah, I can't tell you why.
I need somebody to tell me, man.
Worse than the jail conditions? A missed business opportunity.
That day, I had a meeting. Could not do the meeting that day because I was arrested. By losing that, I might have lost the franchise.
Lewis also lost time, lots of it. He was in and out of court fighting to get the charges dismissed, and his impounded car returned.
I know this is a system, so just hoping for the best results.
It wasn't until mid-June, 3 months after he was stopped, that the case was finally dismissed.
I'm very excited for him, but this is not the end.
Next step, more money spent to expunge the case, so his arrest won't show up in a background check. And all of this for somebody who did nothing wrong?
Correct.
Your joy is a little bit...
Dampered, yes. Totally dampered, because now this is a much longer process.
Folks, that is just infuriating to me. I've seen it so many times, over and over and over again, where the system jam up black people especially. Rarely does this type of thing happen to whites, Asians, etc. It's blacks. And why did it happen? Because of their screw up. Because they didn't put his information in their system. And then the state police confirmed that with his card, they should not have charged him with anything. He had a valid card. They took that card. They took it back to the police station. They verified and confirmed that it was valid. And yet a prosecutor signed off on charging him with 2 felonies. That is systemic racism. And he needs to file suit. He needs to file suit. Now, I'm going to talk about all that he can do here and what you can do as well. Again, remember, this is not legal advice, so you need to see an attorney. But these are the kinds of things that I would be thinking about if someone came to our office looking for representation after something like this has happened. You see, the system can mess up black people not just by, God forbid, shooting them dead or beating them to death or, using excessive force, but these kinds of things as well, because this is going to cost this man thousands of dollars, thousands, a whole lot of headache, a whole lot of inconvenience, and then his name may still be out there in somebody's database as a felon. This just infuriates me. All right, so let's go back now and let's look at...
It's nearly impossible to know how many drivers
what
like
happened.
Lewis are wrongly charged with unlawful gun possession that are later dismissed. Neither the CPD or the Cook County State's Attorney's Office track it.
Because we got to confirm whether it's actually valid or not.
We did find a handful of lawsuits accusing police of violating the rights of legal gun owners.
And I'm sitting in here in the back of a squad car because my license expired, but I renewed it.
One of those, an irate Lucy Washington.
And it's not my fault that you guys didn't get it in your system.
I'm an entrepreneur, a loving mother. I do everything from real estate.
Can't wait to get my guys in here to look at the floors.
To rehabbing.
Traffic stopping.
Here's Lucy's story.
Hi, I had something wrong with my bag. Yes.
In December of 2023, she was stopped for failing to put on her turn signal. Without hesitation, she volunteers.
I am concealed and carry.
As a single woman, Lucy carries a gun for protection.
I have it.
My love, your CCL expired.
I know, but if you pull it up, it'll show that I already tried to renew it.
Lucy tries to explain that the email showing proof she renewed is on her phone.
My phone and fell.
Only she can't find it. This is the email from the state Lucy was trying to show the police. It says if you apply for renewal, you're eligible to possess a license.
Oh my God, are you serious? Can I please look for my phone? Please, give me like 5 more minutes to look for my phone.
And it sounds like the officers weren't going to accept the email under any circumstances.
But it's not in our system, Lucy. It's not in our system.
I freaked out, especially when I was told that I was going to be charged with a felony. I'm like, I can lose my broker license.
Like Lewis, Lucy's felony charge was eventually dismissed. She also got the case expunged, but she's still living with the trauma.
If you search a property that is in my name, my mugshot shows up next to it. It's embarrassing. How do I explain to someone like, oh no, I was innocent?
If they did nothing wrong, again, why were Lewis and Lucy arrested? We posed that question to Phil Smith.
And I'm honored to testify today.
Smith is the president and founder of the National African American Gun Association. Membership, more than 50,000.
Outrage, anger, frustration. Not again. Those are the conversations and statements that are going in my head when I hear about another black person being stopped illegally, being arrested illegally when they've had all their stuff together.
While there's no data that tracks race in these types of gun arrests, Smith points to America's disturbing history of black people with guns being unjustly killed by police.
If you look at other communities, they have firearms all over the place, and it's okay. They go to Macy's, they go to Walmart, they go shoot and hunt, and it's okay.
This is so ridiculous, bro.
I felt defeated, I felt defeated. And I felt like nobody had my back.
I just feel like the rights that I've been given, the constitutional rights to have it, that the police officers didn't stand up for.
These cops, man, killing me, bro.
Since the arrest, Lewis has been struggling to rebuild his cheesecake business. He blames police for the setback and plans to sue the department.
This shows that no matter how much you follow a system of which they create, they can still deem you wrong.
At this point, both Lewis and Lucy are still waiting to get their legally purchased guns back from CPD. Both the state's attorney's office and the state police declined to be interviewed. Dorothy Tucker, CBS News Chicago, Investigators.
Our team is working to find out just how often this happens. If this happened to you, we want to know. Head to our website and take our survey at cbschicago.com.
So there you have it. I'm going to be honest, almost came to tears just listening to this because I see it so often. I see it so often. And you kept hearing the gentleman say because of the system. He's absolutely right. And oh, by the way, Phil Smith, I know Phil. I've met him, and he is over the National African Americans Gun Association. If you are a licensed, legal firearm carrier, that is a wonderful organization. It is an organization of African American gun owners, and they have chapters all over the country. So I absolutely recommend Phil and that organization. But the system, despite the Second Amendment, which gives us the right to carry firearms, despite that, you see what often happens to African Americans. Despite the Second Amendment. So there's some things you just need to know as an African American gun owner about you being black and the Second Amendment. Now we're going to go in just a moment and read a little bit from Dr. Carol Anderson's book, The Second, which talks about how the Second Amendment has been so unfair to us African American people. And I see it as a licensed attorney because I have represented countless black people who have been charged with possessing a gun or with defending themselves or defending a loved one, and yet still they got jammed up. And that was the reason why actually I started a second YouTube channel. It's called Armed and Informed. Armed and Informed. And I don't, quite frankly, I need to do more with it. I haven't done a lot with it here recently, but you still could go over and subscribe. I intend to do more with it. And this kind of story is exactly the reason why I started that channel in the first place. All right. I mean, really, this is it. Because we African Americans, yes, we need to be armed, but we also need to be informed because of the way they treat us. All right. The way they treat us, despite constitutional amendments. I mean, we got 13th, 14th, 15th amendments. And yet look at, for example, the 15th Amendment. Look at how they did exactly what the 15th Amendment said they shouldn't be doing, abridging our rights to vote. Yet poll taxes, literacy tests, and everything else, and modern day stuff, trying to keep blacks from voting, despite the 15th Amendment. Well, the same happens with the second. Same happens with the fourth. Same happens with the Fifth Amendment. Sixth Amendment. That's why being informed is so very important. So very important. All right, now let's go back over and let's read a little bit from Dr. Anderson's book. Here she is, a very distinguished historian, and she has written this awesome book. I refer to it a lot. The Second, Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America. All right, let's read a few things. So she writes, since at least 1680, black people have not had the right to self-defense, especially when it comes to protecting themselves from white violence. Over the course of more than 300 years, that hard reality remains as the Stand Your Ground laws, first enacted in 2005, make clear. To be clear, this is not a pro-gun or anti-gun book. Guns are not the key variable here. It's black people. Their legal status, enslaved, free black, denizen, Jim Crowed, citizen, or citizen of post-racial America. And she has that in quotation because clearly she's just being sarcastic there. Did not change the way the Second Amendment worked against our rights. From colonial times through the 21st century, regardless of the laws. regardless of the court decisions, regardless of the changing political environment. The Second Amendment has consistently meant this. The second a black person exercises that right, the second they pick up a gun to protect themselves or not, their life, as surely as Philando Castile's, as surely as Alton Sterling's, as surely as 12-year-old Tamir Rice's, could be snatched away in that same fatal second. Now just imagine, before we go on, what could have happened to both of those two people we just met, who were gun owners with the legal right to carry their guns pursuant to federal and state law. Just imagine how that could have gone wrong, like it did with Philando Castile, who's not with us today. He was unalived by a police officer, despite Philando legally carrying his firearm, informing the officer, and yet he's shot dead. Again, despite the Second Amendment. So, what to do if the system charges you with a false charge? Now, this could apply to any charge. But since we're talking about gun charges, let's say with a gun charge. Now, once again, keep in mind, I am not giving you any legal advice. That is not what is going on here. This is general information. All right, this is general information. All right, so actions you may take after a wrongful prosecution. Number one, retain an attorney experienced in wrongful prosecution or civil rights litigation. So that's the first thing you need to do. Pick up the phone and call a lawyer. Before you do anything, before you answer any questions, before you sign any documents, before you make any decisions in the heat of the moment, call a lawyer. Second, push for a full dismissal of all charges with no conditions attached. So if you've been wrongly prosecuted, you should have a lawyer there with you. And you and your lawyer should push for a full dismissal, no conditions. That can be very important down the road, at least in the state of Texas, when you try to get your record expunged. You want a clean break from that prosecution. No community service, nothing, no fines, no probated time, no deferred adjudication like we do here. You want those charges dismissed with no conditions attached, because that would then could very well disqualify you for an expunction here in the state of Texas, at least. Demand a formal written apology from the charging authority. So the district attorney's office, all right, the city attorney's office, the police department, sheriff department, whatever law enforcement department it is, demand a formal written apology from the charging authority. That will help down the line, as you'll see here in just a second. Not saying that you're going to get it, but you should demand it because it was their fault, the system's fault. And that's what we're talking about here now. If you broke the law, that's a whole different thing. But if you're innocent, then yes, demand a formal written apology from the charging authority. Also, secure copies of your court records, including a certified dismissal signed by the judge. And by the way, the court records you get, those too should be certified. So ask the clerk for certified copies. Pay the extra money and make sure they're stamped certified. All right, you're going to need that. Now, your attorney will be able to get these things, but get a copy for your record. And the dismissal document, make sure the judge has signed that and make sure it is absolutely dismissed, again, with no conditions. Also, file a notice of your intent to sue with the appropriate city or governmental entity. Verify the deadline. Like many cities, you got to file a notice letting the city know that you have suffered some sort of harm by the police department, some city worker, and so on. And here, quite often, it is 6 months. It can be shorter, So you need to verify the deadline. Don't wait. Don't wait a year and then, okay, the statute of limitations is not up for another year or two or whatever the statute of limitations is in your area, and then you file the lawsuit, and the first thing they do is file something saying, well, she didn't give us notice, or he didn't give us notice within the deadline. All right? So ask your attorney about that as well. Okay? Initiate a malicious prosecution lawsuit or a Section 1983 lawsuit if the facts and law support it. And don't you make that decision. You do that. You make that decision with the advice and counsel of a licensed attorney. And again, get on top of these things immediately. Don't wait. Don't wait. I know with our firm, we don't like having to try to get some things done and you're right up on the deadline. Okay? Don't wait. So those are some of the things that you should consider doing if something awful like what happened to those two people happened to you. You have rights. The Second Amendment was there to protect your right to own a firearm. But as Dr. Anderson said, and I'm confirming as a practitioner, as a licensed attorney who represent a lot of black people with gun charges, that things don't go the way they're supposed to go quite often when you're black. But you do have recourse. All right, so I thought that this story was absolutely necessary to try to get across the country. And it will get across the country. All right? I need your help to help it reach as far and wide in the United States as possible. So share this video. Share it, share it, share it, share it. All right? So we don't want that to happen to anyone else. We don't want that to happen to anyone else, although I can tell you it happens a lot to African American people. Now, this is not to discourage you from being a gun owner if you can legally be a gun owner. No, as I said earlier, I think every law-abiding African American should be armed, but I also think that they should be informed. Armed and informed. Okay, so go over to my other YouTube channel, subscribe. I promise you I'm going to start putting up more content. I've just been so busy, but I am going to do just that. All right? So I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. And remember, stay woke.